The biggest mistake in Highlands Ranch happens before a buyer ever steps into a house. They treat Highlands Ranch like one neighborhood. From the outside, I can understand why that happens. You look at the map, you see the name, compare a few listings, and you think, I've got this area figured out. Highlands Ranch is Highlands Ranch. Then you actually start to drive around, and that picture's gonna change. One section could feel more quiet and tucked away, another's gonna give you faster access to major roads. A different pocket feels older and more established. Move a few miles, and the surroundings might feel a little newer, more open, more trail focused, or even more connected to daily conveniences. This is where buyers get in trouble. They find a house they like, the numbers make sense, and the area looks good on paper, and they move forward realizing they might have chosen the right home in the wrong part of Highlands Ranch. So today, let's walk through how to think about Highlands Ranch the right way, not just by price point, the square footages or finishes, but by how different parts of the community actually live day to day. Because Highlands Ranch is not one decision, it is a series of smaller decisions that actually shape your routine after you move. Let's start with the bigger picture. Highlands Ranch on a whole just sits south of Denver and west of Lone Tree. It is one of the larger master planned and popular communities in Colorado, and it has been growing and maturing and evolving for decades. That history matters because Highlands Ranch does not feel like a community that just appeared overnight. You notice mature trees, more established communities, streets, trail systems, parks, community centers, restaurants, neighborhoods, and all of it feels lived in. And a lot of buyers are drawn to this. The area feels easier to understand than many places around the Denver metro. You have access to C-470, the Denver Tech Center is within reach, Lone Tree and Park Meadows are nearby, and daily services are spread throughout the community, and the mountains, well, they're close enough to stay part of that lifestyle conversation. For many people, Highlands Ranch feels practical almost immediately. That can be a strength, but it can also create a blind spot because once buyers realize that Highlands Ranch checks a lot of the broad boxes, they often stop asking the deeper questions. They say, great, now let's go find a house. It's usually too soon. So before you start comparing kitchens and basements and backyards, you need to understand which version actually fits your life in Highlands Ranch. West Ridge, East Ridge, even Central Highlands Ranch, they all offer different experiences. Not for better or worse, but just different, and that distinction matters. When someone tells me, I want convenience, I think about Highlands Ranch differently than when somebody says, I want to be close to trails. A buyer who's evaluating quiet might need different search patterns than someone who wants fast access to Lone Tree and DTC. A person who's prioritizing rec centers and errands and predictable routines, well, they may not land in the same position as somebody who wants a more tucked away setting. Two buyers can actually both live in Highlands Ranch, but have two separate rhythms. And that is the part that most people miss. Let's talk about the west side. Western Highlands Ranch tends to appeal to more buyers who want quick and easy access to more outdoor activities and a little more separation from busier parts of the metro. Depending on where you are, you may want to feel a little closer to more open space, the trail systems, the rolling terrain, and the backcountry side of the community. The pace can feel quieter. The streets are going to feel a little bit more removed. The views and the terrain, they may become a bigger part of that experience. For somebody who wants Highlands Ranch but still wants that sense of breathing room, the west side often gets a little more attention. Now, here's the trade-off. You might not feel as centrally connected to everything. You might add a few more errands and it might take you a little bit more time. Access to C-470, Lone Tree, well, that might require a little bit more time and experience. That doesn't mean the west side's inconvenient. It means that value is not just about convenience. The appeal is the atmosphere. A buyer who loves the west side usually values how it feels. They want those trail access, that open, broad feel, a little slighter, more removed setting, and the sense that they're still in Highlands Ranch. A buyer who puts speed and access first may start feeling a little different after a few weeks. That's why the decision has to match the routine. Now let's move a little bit center of Highlands Ranch. This is where buyers spend a lot of time because Central Highlands Ranch solves a lot of problems. You can be near recreation centers, shopping and restaurants, parks, trails, services, and main roads, and you don't feel like you're pushed too far in any one direction. The word that comes up here, well, it's balance. For many buyers, Central Highlands Ranch doesn't just feel dramatic, it works. It may sound simple, but simple matters. This is a place where daily routine becomes very valuable after the move. Getting groceries, reaching the rec center, meeting somebody nearby, or moving around town, it doesn't require a huge plan. Over time, that predictability becomes why people stay. Central areas can appeal to buyers who want Highlands Ranch to function smoothly. They may not be chasing the most dramatic views or even the most secluded street. Their priority is having a home base that makes the week easier. but there's still a trade-off. Central Highlands Ranch may not always deliver the same tucked away feeling that you'll get over closer on the western side. And it may not even feel as unique as certain pockets do, with more terrain and open space. Some buyers may walk away and think it feels too practical, not distinctive enough. But for the right person, that's not a problem. Practicality is the point. Now, let's jump over to the east side. Eastern Highlands Ranch becomes interesting when access is high on the list. This site can be compelling for buyers who need to move towards DTC or Lone Tree, Park Meadows, Sky Ridge, or I-25 even more often. It can also make sense for someone whose life and lifestyle pulls someone more east than deeper on the west or centralized Highlands Ranch. The lifestyle here is about feeling less tucked away and more about reducing daily effort. That's the important difference. A buyer who wants fast access may value East Highlands Ranch more than someone who mainly wants trails and quiet. Being closer to major movement patterns can make the week feel easier, especially when work, errands, and appointments, restaurants, appointments, or shopping take you towards DTC or Lone Tree. Of course, access comes with its own trade-off. The environment can feel busier. You may not get the same feeling that another part of Highlands Ranch provides. The pace around you may feel more connected to the broader metro. Again, it's not bad, it's just different. And this is where people need to be honest with themselves. You want Highlands Ranch to feel like a quiet retreat, or are you looking to make your day more efficient? Those are definitely not the same search. Now, let's talk about what buyers regret not thinking through. After people move, they rarely come back and go, hey, the biggest issue was the pantry's not big enough. The comments usually sound more practical. They wish they'd have paid closer attention to trail access. They didn't realize how often they might be going to Lone Tree or Park Meadows. They thought, I want a quieter pocket for a neighborhood. Then they realized the daily errands and routines mattered more. But another buyer assumed convenience will be enough. But then they found themselves wanting a more tucked away setting. Those are the conversations that actually matter. The house does matter, but your routine always reveals whether the decision was right. That's why I think buyers should stop choosing the house first in Highlands Ranch and start with your normal week. Where do you go most often? Which are the roads that you're using? How close do you want to be to recreation centers, the trails, the grocery stores, the restaurants, your work routines, your open space? How often are you headed towards DTC, Lone Tree, or even the mountains? Those questions will tell you more than even the listing photos. Because once you move in, that listing goes away, but your routine, it stays. Now, let's talk about who tends to appreciate Highlands Ranch overall. This area often works for buyers who want an established community, structured amenities, access to trails and recreation, and a day-to-day life that feels easier to understand. It can definitely be a strong fit for people relocating into the Denver metro because the area is organized, service-rich, and easy to learn and get around. Highlands Ranch, it can also appeal to buyers who want Colorado lifestyle. Without all the mountain town logistics, you can access the trails, the parks, the open spaces, and mountain routes while still keeping groceries, restaurants and medical services, shopping, and major roads nearby. That combination is a big part of the appeal. However, Highlands Ranch, it's not for everyone. A buyer looking for huge acreage, or a highly walkable downtown environment, or mostly brand new construction, may feel a little disappointment. Someone who wants a more urban lifestyle, they may look elsewhere. And another person who wants maximum privacy and large land parcels may also need to expand and search well beyond Highlands Ranch. That's not criticism, that's just clarity. Every area has a name. Highlands Ranch performs very well for buyers who want established structure and modern convenience, trails, recreation, and community that already feels built out. The mistake, though, is expecting it to be everything. Now, let's make this even more practical. Imagine 3 buyers looking at Highlands Ranch. The first buyer keeps talking about trails, open space, and wanting a quieter feel. They like Highlands Ranch, but they don't want to feel like they're right in the middle of the busiest part. For that person, the west side might deserve a little bit more attention. The second buyer, they want an easy routine. They care about being near services, errands, and rec centers. Central Highlands Ranch may align with their lifestyle. A third person commutes to DTC and moves through Lone Tree on a regular basis. East side Highlands Ranch, that may be the right place. Same community, 3 different search strategies. That's why treating Highlands Ranch like one neighborhood creates a little bit of a problem. The name on the map is the same, but the lifestyle is definitely not. Now, let's talk about the recreation centers for a minute because they are a major part here in Highlands Ranch. There are 4 recreation centers, and they help define the community in a way that many other suburbs don't. For some buyers, that's going to add real value. But here's the one thing. Having access on paper is not the same as having it in real life. Before deciding the rec centers matter to you, decide whether or not it's a part of your routine. Are you likely to use it daily, weekly? Does it even sound good? Would you be preferable to being closer to one specific facility, or is general access enough? Highlands Ranch definitely has a strong trail system. If trails and access is important, do not just ask, does the community have trails? Ask, how easily can you reach those? A 5-minute difference, that can determine whether something becomes a routine or just an idea. That may seem small, but that's where daily life is built. The little details become the habits, and the habits become your experience. Now let's talk about access. C470 is a major piece as to why Highlands Ranch functions the way that it does. Depending on where you live, your access to C470 can change how you live. And why that matters is because if your work, appointments, or errands pull you outside of Highlands Ranch, you'll need it. One pocket may feel more peaceful, but another might save you some time. But neither's going to be better than the other until you look and figure out what your week looks like. Buyers often want a simple answer. They ask, which part of Highlands Ranch is best? But the better question is, best for what? Trail access, community, services, each answer is going to point you somewhere different. That's why the search starts with your lifestyle and not the listing. Now, let's talk about how to evaluate Highlands Ranch before you even start touring homes. Please don't start by booking every listing that just looks attractive. Spend time in each community first. Drive the west side, notice the terrain, the access, and how far you are from community stops. Spend time in Central Highlands Ranch, go for lunch, visit the stores. See how it feels. Move through the eastern side during a time of day when you actually would be driving or doing something. Test out your access towards Lone Tree, DTC, and then pay attention to yourself, your reaction, not just what the area looks like. Ask yourself what it feels like if my life would work here. That's the difference. A house can make you excited for an hour, but your location affects you for years. So before you fall in love with the listing, answer a few questions. Do you want that quiet and more connected? Are you moving around the metro more often? Would the easier access save you time? Your answers will narrow down Highlands Ranch very quickly. At the end of the day, I don't think the mistake is choosing Highlands Ranch. The mistake is assuming that all of Highlands Ranch is the same, and it's not. The west side, the central side, and even the east side create a different and daily version for you and how you live. Instead of chasing the best house, start with part of Highlands Ranch that supports the best part of your routine. In future videos, I'll keep breaking down Highlands Ranch, Castle Rock, Parker, Lone Tree, and the South Metro so you understand how these areas actually live and behave. Because the right move is not just finding a house in the right town, it's finding the part of town that fits your life.